Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us. My name is Nicole Bush, I'm Director of Career and Professional Development here at Tulane University. We're really excited to have you with us today as we offer you industry insights in clinical research. And so we do have one of our alumnas, Kimora Wilson, with us today, and she's brought along a special guest from Black Women in Clinical Research, Jasmine Barnes. Glad to have you with us as well, Jasmine. Before I let them introduce themselves and give you all the information you're looking for, I just want to make sure everyone knows that the session is being recorded and you'll be able to watch it afterwards on YouTube. There's a webinar archive link on our website that you can do, so email us for the link if you need it. Also, as we're getting started here and Kimora and Jasmine are introducing themselves, I invite you to write in the chat where you're coming from and maybe what you do if you'd like to include that. If you want to include when you graduated Tulane or when you were here, you can do that as well. But sometimes it's nice to know where everyone's coming from. So feel free to start putting that in the chat. And if you have questions, if you will send them to me, I will address those questions at the end of the session. So if we're all good to go, I'm going to go ahead and hand it over to Kimora. Thanks, Kimora.
Good afternoon, everyone. I hope everyone is doing well. Thank you all for joining the call today. My name is Kimora Wilson. I am a native of New Orleans, Louisiana. I lived in Nashville, Tennessee for about 12 and a half years, and that's where I got my start within the clinical research industry. I moved back to New Orleans about 3.5 years ago, and I'm excited to be here today presenting to my alma mater. I graduated from Tulane in 2003 with my Bachelor's of Science with a concentration in marketing and management. And I graduated from the A.B. Freeman School of Business. So again, I'm excited to be presenting to you guys today, and we are going to give you information on the clinical research industry and the jobs within the industry. We are a part of Black Women in Clinical Research, and our goal is to basically teach and inform people about the clinical research industry. And we also provide a space to help each other grow. We have a mentoring program. We have a lot of different educational opportunities that we provide to people within this industry and people trying to get in the industry. So it's a great organization. And I also have Jasmine Barnes here with me today. She's one of my colleagues within the research industry, and she's also a brand ambassador for the organization Black Women in Clinical Research. So I am going to start off with a little introduction about myself and how I got into the clinical research industry. Then I'll give it over to Jasmine to tell you about herself, and then we'll get into the presentation. If you have any questions, please feel free to write them down, put them in the chat, and we will answer questions at the end of the presentation. So again, I'm Kimora Wilson. I'm a clinical team manager with PPD, and PPD is Pharmaceutical Product Development, and we are also a part of Thermo Fisher. I've been within the clinical research industry for about 13 years now. And I mentioned I graduated from Tulane with the BS in Marketing and Management. And I also graduated from David Lipscomb University in Nashville, Tennessee, with an MBA with a concentration in healthcare. I just want to say I didn't really know anything about the clinical research industry when I was going to school at Tulane. So that's why I'm excited to bring this industry to the forefront and just kind of teach people who don't know about it. So I didn't know anything about it, and I kind of happened upon the industry through life experience and my work experience. I started my journey off in research at Vanderbilt University. I moved to Nashville after Hurricane Katrina, and I had already graduated from Tulane University. I worked in regulatory submissions for the emergency medicine doctors at Vanderbilt University Medical Center. So basically I would submit research submissions to the Institutional Review Board, and the Institutional Review Board would have to approve, or sometimes they would ask for different edits before they would approve doctors to complete or be able to conduct certain studies or studies in general. So basically I did regulatory, and I helped create informed consent forms. And informed consent forms are basically the forms that the subjects would review and sign before they agree to be within the study. So that was my beginnings within the research industry. I worked on some grants and I worked on a lot of some submitting of different research studies for the doctors that were within the department. After getting my MBA, I started as a site startup associate with Covance. Covance is one of the clinical research organizations, one of the bigger ones. And this was an entry-level position that somebody had told me about, somebody that I met at Vanderbilt. And they told me that it would be a good first job to get within the industry. So I was able to get that job at Covance in Nashville, and it's a study startup associate. And basically that particular job does a lot of regulatory as well. They make sure the different sites that are conducting the clinical studies have all the regulatory documents that they need in order to start the study. So that was my first job within the CRO world. And then I moved up to a specialist, a site startup specialist, where I manage the different associates and basically spoke more and communicated more with the different sponsor companies, the companies that sponsor the research studies. So a lot of the companies that you guys hear about, Pfizer, your Mercks, all the different pharmaceutical companies, they actually sponsor the studies that we work on within the industry. And I had more communication with them as a site startup specialist. After that, I became a clinical research assistant. And what that job was, and we'll get into more of the jobs a little bit later as well. What that position was basically I helped with the management of the different clinical studies at the different sites from a remote point of view. So I was still within office, but I would communicate with different sites who were conducting the different research studies remotely and help the people that were actually on site do different tasks. Sorry, you guys. So my next role was clinical research associate. And this is kind of like the coveted role within the industry. You do a lot of traveling. Most of the times you travel like once a week. So it was a lot of traveling. And basically this particular job is where you go to the sites and you monitor the drug studies. You go to the different clinical sites, maybe it's a university or maybe it's a private clinical site, and you make sure that they're conducting the study according to the protocol, because the end result is hopefully you'll get approved by the FDA, or the sponsor will get approved by the FDA for the drugs to come out and be on market. So we want to make sure that the different sites are following the protocol adequately. There are not a lot of safety events, quality events, and the data is being entered in a timely manner and things are being done on a regular basis. So this is a clinical research associate, and I was in this position for about 8 years. And it was a lot of travel. I even had a site in Puerto Rico. So I would go there every month for about 6 months and monitor that study. So it was a lot of travel and interacting with the different sites. And after doing that for about 8 years, I had a friend at PPD who told me that it was time for me to be a manager. I told her that it was not time for me to be a manager because I did not want the responsibility at the time. I was pretty comfortable with what I was doing because I had been doing it for so long, but she submitted my application, I did the interview, and I got the position. And when I got the position, I felt like I should take it because it would be a good opportunity for me to grow, challenge myself, and to help other people get into the industry as well. So currently I'm a clinical team manager. Some organizations will call it a clinical trial manager. So basically I manage all of the clinical research associates. So the people that were doing what I did for about 8 years, I manage them, make sure they understand their workload, make sure they understand the protocol for the specific studies that I'm working on. And I have a lot of meetings with the sponsors and upper management, just making sure that studies are going according to the contract and everything that needs to be done how it should be. So that is my journey through clinical research. I kind of happened upon it, which I found that a lot of people within the industry kind of happened into the industry as well. I'm also a mentor within Black Women in Clinical Research, and I try to help other people that come into the industry just to kind of get their feet wet, give them some knowledge or be a resource so that they feel a little bit more comfortable. The more people you know, the better. the more help that you have, the better. Because even with this particular job that I started last year, I had a lot of resources, a lot of people to reach out to, and it just made the transition a little bit easier. So that is my matriculation into the industry. I'm going to introduce you guys to Jasmine Barnes. She is a clinical research associate, and Jasmine and I work together at ICON, which is another CRO or clinical research industry. And Jasmine is very motivated. She's young. She just graduated college a few years ago, but she's a force to be reckoned with. And I'm so happy she's here today to help me present. Take it over, Jasmine.
Thank you for the introduction, Kamora. As Kamora said, I am Jasmine Barnes. I am the brand ambassador leader, and I also serve as a mentor within Black Women in Clinical Research. My journey in clinical research wasn't, I guess I would say, as straightforward. Like, I attended college at North Carolina A&T. Are we okay? I heard some background noise, that's why I paused.
You're good.
Okay, thank you. As I was saying, I went to North Carolina A&T as a psychology major, but of course, if you do not want to be a therapist or be a counselor, you kind of have to look at other plans. So that's when I began to look at attending medical school to become a psychiatrist. Fast, short story, I knew medical school was not for me. Like, there was something bigger that I needed to do with less amount of time in school and less debt as well. So I ended up looking into clinical research. My mom was telling me about it and was like, this is something that could be good for you. There are several positions you could look into, but just check it out. And that's exactly what I did. I ended up finding like a CRA program, which really just gave me a foundation into clinical research and provided an internship. After I completed that program, I spent 3 or 4 months like just networking on LinkedIn. I even was on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, any social media site you can think of. I was up there looking for a job, and that's when I landed my first job at ICON as a clinical trial assistant. Being a clinical trial assistant is more on the administrative side, and then like behind the scenes, I spent a lot of time helping CRAs with filing, following up with sites, which is how I met Kamora as well. And shortly after starting that role, like within a year, I transitioned into the CRA role, which is what I was wanting to do from the beginning. But I do feel that being a CTA really gave me a solid foundation into what CRAs do and then how the clinical trial is ran as well. So that was my start into clinical research. It isn't something I noticed a lot of people know about, but there is a good amount of us in there that will support you and get you where you want to go once you find out about it. So today presentation, we already went through our introductions. We'll go through how to get started in clinical research, where clinical research professionals work, sponsor versus CRO versus clinical trial sites, clinical research careers, salary, dealing with rejection, additional resources, and YouTube resources. So how do you get started in the clinical research industry? Many times there are multiple organizations that have bridge programs and internships for college students, such as Covance, Gilead, Johnson & Johnson, Merck, Novartis, Pfizer, PPD, Roche, and MedPace. And these are just links to some of their opportunities. Feel free to look up their career opportunities online. So where do clinical research professionals work? We work at home, as I do right now, in hospitals, medical offices, research centers, pharmaceutical and medical device companies, and contract research organizations. So between sponsors, CROs, and clinical trial sites, what are they? Sponsors are your pharma, biotech, medical device companies that oversee or pay for a clinical trial and collect and analyze the data. CROs, which are contract research organizations, which are companies that provide support to the sponsor, such as writing protocols, data submission to the FDA, and site monitoring. Your clinical trial sites are where drugs, medical devices, and other therapies are tested on human beings. That data is then used by sponsors for FDA approval of the product. So let's get down to the nitty gritty. Do you need a 4-year degree to join the industry? No, you do not, but it is a requirement for growth opportunities. So what types of careers are involved? Let's take a glance at your potential career. And I'll hand this back over to Kimora real quick.
Thank you, Jasmine. Just wanted to piggyback off what Jasmine mentioned about degree. You don't necessarily need a 4-year degree, but it is a requirement for a lot of different jobs within the industry. I also wanted to mention that a lot of people within the industry have biology degrees or some type of science background, but I want to just let you know that it's not necessary to have a biology or a science background. Again, I have a business background and I kind of just happened upon this. I have a healthcare concentration for my MBA, but I've seen people with all types of degrees and backgrounds that have come into the industry. A lot of times when you do have a different background, you may have to start from an entry-level position, but it's not required to just have a science background to be in the industry. All right, so types of clinical research jobs, entry level. So I'm just going to go over some of the entry level jobs and explain what they are. Whenever you're looking for a job within the different organizations, the job titles are going to be different at different companies. So it's good to read the description. And it's also good if you know other people within the industry, so you can kind of ask them, is this an entry level position? Would this be something good to get my foot in the door? Do you think I would be qualified to get this particular job? Because there's so many different job titles. So the CRC and CTA roles are common entry points into a career in clinical research. And from there, the possibilities are unlimited based on your interest and additional educational background. So there's the clinical trial assistant. I think that's what Jasmine was previously, and it's an admin position. So it's good entry level. If you know basic Excel, Word, PowerPoint, OneNote, those type of things, that will be those will be good things to know to be in this position. You're kind of getting your feet wet, helping other people out on helping people out of people in the field or management out on specific studies. There's also the clinical research coordinator role. And this role is at the sites that are conducting the studies. So for instance, I had a site at Ochsner. So there's a clinical research coordinator there who's responsible for the conduct of a specific trial. And they basically do everything regarding patient care when it comes to the study. Sometimes they do data entry. They may store and store the drug or oversee the administration of the drug at the site. So basically they're doing all of the clinical research activities for the study on a site level. So a lot of people who are clinical research coordinators at different sites, they transition into the clinical research organization world easily because they have a good background or a good foundation within research. You also have your clinical research assistant. This was my job before I became an associate. So this was a good job to kind of just find out or learn clinical research and how to properly deal with studies and site activities. You have project specialists, IRB document specialist. And again, an IRB is the Institutional Review Board. They approve the studies or deny the studies. They say whether the study is sufficient or if you can conduct the study at a specific site. You have your clinical trial coordinator, clinical research specialist, clinical project associate, clinical documentation specialist, regulatory coordinator, IBC specialist, document processor, and data processor. So these are jobs that are great stepping stones for a career within clinical research. All right, so types of clinical research jobs. So after you get your foot in the doors, these may be some of the jobs that are available. And one good thing about being within the clinical research world is that I've seen a lot of people go from department to department, kind of get knowledge and understanding of one particular thing, and then they may go on to do something else. I think all knowledge is good. I took the long route into getting into a clinical research associate role, but some people may not do all the little jobs that I did in order to get this role. But I'm glad I did, because it helps me to know what other people do and how we all work together. So clinical research, again, that's the role that travels a lot, because you go to the different sites. You may have local sites, you may have sites that you have to fly to on a regular basis, but they go to the different sites and they monitor the drug studies and basically make sure that the sites are doing the studies according to the protocol, and they're the site's first point of contact when it comes to issues or questions regarding the different studies. You have your drug safety specialist. And I remember when I was at Covance, we had the drug safety department. So whenever there's some safety issues or what we call serious adverse events, which may be worsening of conditions or maybe death, you want to make sure all this is recorded. Because before the FDA can approve a study, they want to make sure that it's as safe as possible. So we have to make sure that we document anything that has to do with the safety of the subjects due to the drug studies. Next, we have biostatistician. I have a friend who's a biostatistician. She's very analytical. So I don't know a lot about that position, but that's one of the positions that are within the industry. We have study manager and project manager. I'm a study manager. We have data scientist. We have clinical data coordinator, clinical data analyst, clinical data manager, quality assurance specialist. You can be an auditor. There are people that come and make sure that the different studies are being done appropriately. They may come and audit the site, look at everything, whether it be regulatory data, study subject documents, just to verify or give some quality assurance for the study. We have medical officer, clinical business analyst, and medical writer. So these are jobs that support clinical research, but they don't directly interact with patients. And like Jasmine said, a lot of the positions we work from home. So I haven't been in an office environment in probably about 9 years. So yeah, we work remotely, and these are just some of the jobs within the industry. There's so much more. And the more I'm with Black women in clinical research, the more I see how many different job opportunities there are within the research world. All right, next we'll go to salary ranges for key roles. So one of the key roles that I mentioned was the clinical research coordinator, and that's the person that works at the different sites that conduct the clinical research. So on average, they make about $50,000, and a high for them would be about $73,000. Clinical trial assistant, which was an entry-level position within the clinical research organizations. They make between about $55,000 to $81,000. And then the CRA, clinical research associate role, average between $78,000 and $121,000. And the higher you go within your role, the more likely you already have an increase in salary. All right, Jasmine. Oh, is this me still?
No, it's me. I just had
Okay.
to unmute myself. So how do you determine your salary expectations? Number one, research the market rate. Utilize online salary calculators such as Indeed and Glassdoor as a starting point. Keep in mind salaries vary across the country and by experience. Number two, evaluate your experience. Once you have the standard salary, it's time to reflect on your skills, experience, and level of education. And last but not least, consider location and cost of living. How much should you be paid based on your location standard of living? If you do not know, utilize the cost of a living calculator. So responding to rejection emails is something we all get, and it's something I feel like we all hate somewhat. But rejection emails don't necessarily have to be bad. When responding to rejection emails, be sure to show gratitude that you've been able to get this far with the team and that you've learned something about the company. You can always mention something that interests you about the company or the role as well. And last but not least, end it on a positive note. You never know when a company may circle back maybe 3 or 4 months down the line for that same position that they want to consider you for, or for a different position that they feel will be a better fit. Remember, rejection is redirection. Mentorship and additional resources. We have quite a few additional resources such as Black women in clinical research. We have Black men in clinical research, minorities in clinical research, ACRP, which is Association of Clinical Research Professionals, SOCRA, Society of Clinical Research Associates. You can also look on clinicaltrials.gov and see all of the clinical trials being conducted in your local area. And then we have the Student Association of Clinical Research. Some YouTube resources I found. I'm not sure if you guys are active on YouTube, but there's a lot of good stuff. We have Black Women Clinical Research, then CEFRA. There's a monitoring clinical trials course, which will really go over what CRAs do. I took that course. Your favorite CRA, there's Jasmine Adams, Clinicentials, Elite Clinical Research, Good Clinical Practice Mindset, all about clinical research, How to Clinical Research, and then the ACRP YouTube resource. Well, that's all we have for you guys. We thank you for listening. And do you guys have any questions for us?
I see. I do have some questions. So if someone is transitioning into this career from a different industry, can you share some of the transferable skills that would make that person both competitive and successful in the field?
Sure. Jasmine, you want me to take this one?
Either or, I could piggyback. It doesn't matter.
Okay. Some transferable skills. So we have a lot of nurses that come into the industry. I'm trying to get my younger brother into the industry. So for a lot of entry-level positions, like I mentioned before, as long as you have good administration skills and are willing to learn, you can probably get a lot of those jobs, but maybe some type of healthcare background would be good. Making sure that you know different Microsoft systems, and just maybe looking at some of the different job descriptions to see what they want, and you may be able to get some certifications from different places. Jasmine, what do you have?
I agree with what you were saying. I would say it depends on your industry because clinical research and the other industries tend to overlap. Like, let's say your background is in finance. There are finance clinical research positions. So, I mean, there may be an overlap. You just have to look. And I will also say if you can get your resume reviewed as well, so you're able to pull those transferable skills out. So when an employer or a recruiter looks at your resume, they already know what you can do, although you have a different background.
That's great. Thanks. Let's see. Is it an industry norm to negotiate your salary, or salary offers typically firm when they're offered?
Negotiate the salary.
Yeah, definitely negotiate. You may not have as much wiggle room when you're first starting in the industry, maybe your first job, but as a research associate, as a manager, different things, definitely negotiate because they'll try to give you the lowest amount. But as a clinical research associate, I was able to go from, I may have had certain jobs where I had a $20,000 increase in my salary or a $10,000 increase. So definitely negotiate. And sometimes they even offer sign-on bonuses as well.
Well, that is great advice. You never want to leave money sitting on the table, right?
Right.
You mentioned training in some of these versus certifications. So how many companies have training programs on the specifics of these versus a person needing outside training, like as a certification?
I would say like majority of the CROs have training. Like let's say you want to become a CRA, like Syneos Health, where I work, has a CRA training program where they'll train you from, I would say like the bottom up to become like the best CRA. So a lot of these companies do have CRA training programs, but it's also good to have like some sort of knowledge of that position as well. You can look on YouTube or even Google as well, but all these companies do have training programs. But I did get a GCP, which stands for Good Clinical Practice Certification, online for free at GCP NIDA, NIDA. For some reason, whenever I drop the link, it says it's like a spam. That's why I didn't drop it. But that's a good certification to have on your resume if you don't have like a clinical research background.
Okay.
Yeah, and I would try to get as much free training or as much training as possible before trying to get into the industry. It'll just make you a little bit more appealing to the recruiter. And I've heard from some of our BWICR meetings that there's some trainings that are available within different groups and organizations on LinkedIn as well. And I know that Jasmine put up the YouTube ones. So just do some research and try to do as much free training or training on your own ahead of time.
It's never going to make you less valuable, right? To have more training and certifications. Let's see. What about cultural fit? What is the industry laid back? You said work from home, high pressure, average number of hours worked. What kind of culture should someone expect or would make someone a good fit in the industry?
I would say it depends on your position. Like as a CTA, set hours, let's say 8 to 5 or 8 to 4, but as a CRA, I mean, typically I work 8 hours, but if I travel, that doesn't include like getting ready to travel, getting on the road, going to the airport. So I would say it really just depends on your position. But as far as the culture, it really depends on the company. I could say Syneos tries to make sure whoever they hire would be a good fit for the company and that we're a good fit for them as well. So that's just my take on it. Just kind of have to see what positions would allow flexibility if that's what you're looking for, or if you're looking for set hours, seeing what positions offer set hours.
And a lot of the positions that I've had over the years in research, it's been more than just a 40-hour job. I would say it's more of a high pressure environment, and you just have to try your best to be someone who knows how to prioritize and organize and manage their workload. I wouldn't say this is something that's just laid back and you're going to have 8 hours every day, unless maybe you're in data management. And like Jasmine said, it depends on the job role. A lot of the ones that I've had weren't just like a regular 8 to 5 or 9 to 5. You had to work extra hours. I may be traveling, but I have to work when I get to my hotel. And right now as a manager, I usually wake up and work an 8-hour day, go to the gym, do a couple of things, but I may get online at night for about an hour just to make sure I don't have 100 emails the next day. So I would definitely say it depends on the position. A lot of the jobs could be high pressure, but as long as you know how to prioritize, organize, and ask questions, I think you'll be fine.
Great, thank you. For interested applicants, do you recommend they go through a recruiter, trying to get a referral by a current employee, both, or a different strategy?
I would say both. When I got hired at Syneos, I went through a referral from someone that was already at the company, and I went through multiple recruiters. I would say it's best just to get your name like floating around. So when they see your name, they're like, oh, I really gotta pull this application. So I would say the more the merrier, and just network with people as well at that company. Because I can say at Syneos, I was rejected from the CRA role like 5 times last year, like 5 times before they even the recruiter would even call me. But it took me, networking with different people, different managers at the position before someone finally pulled my application and gave me the opportunity.
Yeah, I would definitely say since I've been in the industry, the different companies value the referrals from the current employees a lot. Usually you can at least get an interview. So the more people you know, the better. But yeah, definitely use all options or all different outlets that you have. So if you only know a recruiter and don't know people at certain companies who can refer you, then definitely try to go that route and do what you can to just get your name out there and your foot in the door.
Yeah. Well, thank you for sharing, Jasmine, that you continue to apply for that company, because it does take a few times sometimes to get in.
It definitely does. You just can't give up.
Yeah, right, right. That's great. I think that's important information to share with people because sometimes they get one rejection and just kind of like, oh, it's not going to work out, and they leave. So it's good to stick with it. I do have one more. Do you have any advice for someone who is in an entry research position and wants to advance further? It's like the best way to get ahead, I guess, within the organizations.
I guess it depends on what the entry level role that the person is in. If they're trying to transition into a clinical research role, I would definitely say do your research on the different jobs. Maybe look at the list that we have. Do your research on those jobs. See if you think it's something. What do you think you'll be the best fit for? Or what do you think you like the most? And see what those responsibilities are. Try to network with people on LinkedIn. I had somebody reach out to me on LinkedIn and just give me her resume and tell me her background. And after I talked to her and got to know her, I was able to give her more and more information. So try to network with as many people as you can to give you as much information as possible to try to help you get your foot in the door or get to the next level that you want to be in.
I would also say, depending on your relationship with your manager, you could mention that, and maybe there's a certain pathway you can take to, move up at that company. But if that company isn't necessarily offering like the position you're seeking, or they're not trying to take you to the next level, it's okay to look at other companies as well. As long as you get the experience you're desiring and you're, learning and networking with people, you'll go far. So don't let, if your current company isn't trying to, promote you per se, you don't have to stay there. You can go elsewhere if you so choose.
Very good, very good. Hold on, I'm reading something. Okay, great. Yeah, someone had asked for that slide. I don't see another question in the chat right now. So if anyone does have another question, please send it over. Otherwise, I would just ask if you all want to share some final thoughts, or do you want to leave everyone with? And may they contact you, or what's the best way for them to find you afterwards?
I'll drop my LinkedIn. Hopefully this link works, but I am up there. So that is my LinkedIn if anybody wants to contact me.
Would you also include the link to the Black Women in Clinical Research page, please?
Yes.
So I'm not as fancy as Jasmine. I don't have my LinkedIn link, but if you look up Kimora Wilson, I don't think there's many Kimora Wilsons on LinkedIn. So you can look me up on LinkedIn. If you have any questions, I'll be happy to help you. I just want to thank everybody for coming and just learning about this industry. I'm just excited that we were able to present and just, let people know about the industry and the different jobs that are out there. There's a lot of money to be made in the industry. There's a lot of growth opportunities. So definitely consider, and maybe if you know anybody, let them know about the clinical research industry as well. And like Jasmine said, it is hard sometimes to get your foot in the door, but just keep trying. And yeah, eventually you'll get something and you get where you need to be.
I agree. I would say don't give up if you're trying to get into the industry. Network with anybody you see, even if it's just a congratulations, a happy birthday, how are you doing? Just network. You never know who you're going to run into, or even circle back when you get into the industry as well. Rejections happen. I've been rejected, God knows how, so many times. And don't get me wrong, they do sting quite a bit, but you will get to where you want to go as long as you don't give up. Remember, there are so many resources out here and people that will help you if you just ask. So please use me and Kimora as a resource. Should you guys need anything, feel free to reach out to Black Women Clinical Research. We are here for you. We want to help you. And just don't give up, because we're not quitters here. We don't give up.
Very good. I love it. Thank you both so much. This is just some really great information, and I really appreciate how thorough you all were and all the information that you've shared with us. And if you do know people, anyone attending, if you know people who are interested but missed it, we'll have it posted by the end of the day so they can view the recording and so they don't miss out on this great info.
Is it posted on a specific website?
Yes, if you go to alumni.tulane.edu/careers and look at the professional development resources, the link to it, this sounds like it's really buried, but thank you, Sarah. Sarah just put the link in the chat for everyone. We have a YouTube channel for Tulane Career and Professional Development. The link to it is on our website, and we should have that up there by the end of the day. So yes, Sarah has the link in there, so you can save that if you guys want to hold on to that. So thank you all so much. This is Industry Insights as part of the Professional Development Series, our weekly webinar series to help you bring more information, help you develop as a professional wherever you are in your career. We have another one next week and we'll keep going. So keep in touch with us, check out the emails, the website. It's also on Tulane Connect. And thank you again so much, Kimora and Jasmine. Really appreciate you sharing your time and expertise with us.
Yeah, thanks. That was really good.
Yeah.
Thanks for having us.
Thanks so much. Y'all have a great day.
Bye.
Bye.